Okay, class, I wanted to offer a little bit of clarity on exactly what's expected from the metacognitive reading logs. I mentioned that the Think Aloud bookmarks give you an idea of the type of thoughts that come to mind when we read. It doesn't cover all the different thoughts that might come to mind when we read, but it does cover a majority of them. So as you're reading, you're having these thoughts like predictions or deciding that you can picture whatever it is that's being that you're reading, having questions about the reading, making connections to things that you're familiar with or things you may have read or seen before, identifying problems, things that you're confused about, summarizing, things like that. Okay. And then even just thoughts that basically go along the lines of I think, I believe, or I wonder. So as you're reading and as these thoughts come to mind, what I'm wanting you to do is, if we look over here to the explanation or to the example, what is it in the text that caused you to have the thought that you had? So over here, we've got on the left-hand side, we've got an idea, a paraphrase really of what the book said. In this case, most of their theories, they being the authors, sounded perfectly logical. It was roaring 1990s economy, they said, that helped turn back crime. Okay, so that was basically a paraphrase of what the book said. And then the thought that the student had was, I believe most of the explanations the experts provided were displays of logical fallacies. For instance, the explanation that the 90s economy was responsible for the drop of crime rate was an example of a post hoc fallacy. The post hoc fallacy states that since A happened before B, it must have been the cause. This is what makes the economy explanation unreliable. So what this student did was draw information, knowledge from something we had been studying earlier in the semester to make to have this thought. Here, the student decides to question the author, which is totally okay. So in the book, it was the sort of innovative policing strategies put into place in New York City. Here, I believe the author did not provide enough information in order to show how this wasn't the cause of the decline in violence. Innovative policing strategies could refer to a broad number of things, any one of which could or could not be this cause. So, again, it's a thought that kind of begins with I believe. It's questioning, the author's credibility in this particular situation. Let's see. Here's an honest thought. So this student chose to quote directly from the book. I prefer you to paraphrase. But what the student says here about this particular section of reading is, if I'm being completely honest, I had no idea which direction this book was going. I did like these scenarios, though. They taught me a lot that I didn't know. I look forward to what else I find out. Stuff like that is fine, too. I don't want all of your entries to be like that. I'd like you to, obviously add some real thought to them and things like that. But it's okay every once in a while to just stop and think, you know what, I don't know where this thing is going, and examine that a little bit and decide, how is that working for you, like this student did. Another example here. It makes more sense to me for crime to be slowly going up. So what exactly causes it to fall so quickly? I understand maybe if it is in one or more categories, but the book states that every category fell in every part of the country. So again, just a thought that came to mind and then some further examination. Let's see. So again, we have a student who quoted directly from the book, which again, I don't like, but I'm telling you that now so that you know. But here's a solid example here about stasis theory. I believe this is crucial. So that was the initial thought that the student had, but the student took it a step further to explain. If the readers can agree on the true disagreement, then they can get to the heart of the matter and have clearer ground for any agreement or solution that can be made on the subject at hand. The readers may not agree on all points to the issue, but agreeing on at least one leads to some resolution. Okay, so for each of these entries, and by the way, when I say entries, I mean this. This is a single entry right here. We've got the, what is it that the book said that caused you to have the thought, and then the thought itself along with an explanation. That is a single entry. So for instance, when I say that you need 15 entries, you need 15 of these. What does it say in the book? And what was the thought that the book caused you to have, along with an explanation of that thought. And these examples are available for you on Blackboard. But I just wanted to make that clear. And by the way, if you're not comfortable offering your metacognitive logs in this format with the columns, if you're not quite sure how to create columns or you're not comfortable with columns, you can just list, number one, what came from the book, and then number one, what was your thought in the explanation, number two, what was in the book, number two, what was your thought and explanation, vertically rather than in columns like this, if that makes you more comfortable. But again, with the very first metacognitive reading log, you will receive full credit as long as it's clear that you put forth some effort into it, and then I will be able to provide some feedback so you have a better idea of what's expected. But hopefully this little video explanation of what these different entries look like will be helpful to you moving forward. Alrighty?